This is devotional number 246, and today's date is May 22nd, 2017. This week I thought we would take a look at Exodus 20, verses 1 to 5, and so today we're going to focus on verse 1, which states, "And God spake all these words, saying." Verse 1 literally reads in Hebrew, "And spake God all these words, saying." What's noteworthy is the words that God has chosen to employ in this citation, which are very significant. We find one word for God, which is the plural word Elohim, Strong's number 430, in addition to two other related words for word. One is the noun and verb forms of debar, and the verb saying, which is Strong's number 559. The noun and verb forms of debar are 1696 and 1697. The entire chapter, however, deals with God's law as summarized in the Ten Commandments and as Moses stated to the Israelites in verse 20. "And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not." As we make our way through this series, we will encounter God's law or word, man's rebellion, and God's inexplicable grace in redeeming a people for himself through various metaphors or types and figures. The verb spake is the Hebrew word debar, 1696, which is the chief word for speak in the Old Testament. And, in considering this, we're amazed that God would even communicate with mankind, but in such a personal and meaningful way as he had. We read in Deuteronomy 5:24, "And ye said, Behold, Jehovah our God hath showed us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice out of the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that God doth talk with man, and he liveth." Doth talk is 1696 debar. Also, we read in Deuteronomy 18 through 19, these promises, "I will raise them up a prophet," speaking of Christ, "from among their brethren, like unto thee," referring to Moses, "and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak," again 1696, "unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him." Again, for the third time, "which he shall speak" is this word debar. 1 Kings 8:56 also affirms, "Blessed be Jehovah, that hath given rest unto his people Israel, according to all that he promised. There hath not failed one word of all his good promise, which he promised by the hand of Moses." According to all that he promised, and which he promised is 1696. The word hath not failed one word. This word is 1697. Isaiah 45:19 further adds, "I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the earth. I said not unto the seed of Jacob, Seek ye me in vain. I, Jehovah, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right." Both I have not spoken and speak is this term 1696 again, Debar. And lastly, we can look at Isaiah 63:1. And here again, it's I that speak, is this rendering of 1696. Who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. God uses the plural Hebrew word for God, Elohim, 430, that denotes his majestic triune character. And some of you might recall that God inserted this same word in Genesis 1:26 in describing the creation of man. This unique creature, this unique creation that God made in his own image and likeness, as this verse makes known. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Elohim is used thousands of times in the Old Testament, again 430, and it stems from the singular root word Elohah, which is 433, that's used 57 times. And we'll look at a couple examples of this word 433. In Isaiah 44:8, it's rendered as a God. Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God. I know not any. And in Nehemiah 9:16 through 17, it's translated, but thou art a God. Again, this is 433. But they and our fathers dealt proudly, and hardened their necks, and hearkened not to thy commandments, and refused to obey, neither were mindful of thy wonders that thou didst among them, but hardened their necks, and in their rebellion appointed a captain to return to their bondage. But thou art a God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and forsookest them not. It's also interesting to note that the Hebrew word for words, this is Debar 1697, in Exodus 20 verse 1, stems from the verb Debar 1696 that we looked at in the beginning of this lesson. It too is used thousands of times throughout the Old Testament, and we want to consider just a couple examples. In Jeremiah 11, 7 through 8, we read this sad account. For I earnestly protested unto your fathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, even unto this day, rising early and protesting, saying, Obey my voice. Yet they obeyed not, nor inclined their ear, but walked every one in the imagination of their evil heart. Therefore I will bring upon them all the words of this covenant, which I commanded them to do, but they did them not. Upon them all the words is Debar 1697. Excuse me. Also, if we go to Isaiah 29:18, this is a beautiful passage that speaks to God's salvation program during the day of salvation. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. Here it's the word words that is 1697. The last term that we find here in verse 1 of Exodus 20 is the Hebrew word that is translated saying, which is Strong's number 559. And it's a word that is used many, many times, over 5,000 times in the Old Testament, and it's rendered primarily as said, as we see from these following verses. Psalm 40, verse 7 states, "Then said I, lo, I come. In the volume of the book it is written of me." Likewise, Isaiah 1:18 makes this declaration, "Come now, and let us reason together, saith Jehovah. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool." And Jeremiah 6:16 through 17 declares, "Thus saith Jehovah, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. Also I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, we will not hearken." 3 times we find this word 559 in these 2 verses. Well, Lord willing, in our next devotional, we'll continue with verse 2 of Exodus 20, as God wills.